Charles Manson never killed anyone with his own hands, but he ordered a string of brutal murders in 1969. By 2017, Manson was 83 years old and dying. He'd spent nearly 50 years inside California prisons. In November 2017, Manson was hospitalized for severe complications. Doctors diagnosed him with colon cancer that had spread. He was taken from Corcoran State Prison to a hospital. Reports said he was too weak to walk unaided. On November 19, 2017, Manson suffered cardiac arrest. He died at the hospital surrounded by prison guards. No family members were present at his bedside. His body remained unclaimed for weeks afterward. Eventually, a grandson won a legal battle for the remains. Manson was cremated in a small private ceremony. The man behind one of America's most infamous cults died quietly. Decades of fear ended not with violence, but disease. Jesse James was America's most famous outlaw in the 1880s. He'd robbed banks and trains across the Midwest for years. By 1882, a reward of $10,000 hung over his head. James was living quietly in St. Joseph, Missouri, under a fake name. He'd recently recruited two new gang members, Charlie and Robert Ford. On April 3, 1882, James was relaxing at home. He removed his guns and jacket to dust a picture frame. His back was turned to both Ford brothers in the room. Robert Ford drew his revolver and aimed at James's head. He fired a single shot into the back of James's skull. Jesse James collapsed instantly and died within minutes. The Ford brothers had been promised amnesty and reward money. Instead, they were charged with murder and convicted. Robert Ford became known as a coward who shot an unarmed man. James's death ended the era of the Wild West's most wanted outlaw. He was killed not in a gunfight, but while dusting furniture. Billy the Kid was wanted for multiple murders across New Mexico. By 1881, Sheriff Pat Garrett was hunting him relentlessly. The Kid had escaped jail just months before, killing two deputies. On the night of July 14, 1881, he was hiding at Fort Sumner. Garrett waited inside a darkened bedroom of a friend's house. Billy entered the room late at night. Unaware Garrett was there. He asked in Spanish, "Who is it?" into the darkness. Garrett recognized the voice and fired twice without hesitation. One bullet struck Billy the Kid directly in the chest. He died almost instantly, falling to the floor. He was 21 years old at the time of his death. Garrett later wrote a book detailing the famous shooting. Some conspiracy theories claim Billy survived and lived for decades. Most historians agree the Kid died that night in Fort Sumner. His grave remains a popular tourist destination in New Mexico today. John Dillinger was the FBI's most wanted man in 1934. He'd robbed over a dozen banks during the Great Depression. The FBI had tracked him to Chicago by mid-July. A woman named Anna Sage offered to betray Dillinger's location. She told agents he'd be at the Biograph Theater that night. On July 22, 1934, Dillinger watched a movie called Manhattan Melodrama. As he exited the theater, agents surrounded the area. Dillinger reportedly drew a pistol and tried to run. Agents opened fire, striking him multiple times. He was hit in the chest, side, and neck. John Dillinger died on the sidewalk outside the theater. Crowds gathered immediately, some dipping handkerchiefs in his blood as souvenirs. His death marked a major victory for the FBI's reputation. Anna Sage received a cash reward, but was later deported. Dillinger's death ended one of America's most violent crime sprees. D.B. Cooper hijacked a plane in 1971 and vanished forever. He demanded $200,000 in cash and 4 parachutes. After receiving the money, he jumped from the plane mid-flight. He parachuted into a stormy night over Washington state. No body was ever found. No arrest was ever made. For decades, the case remained one of the FBI's biggest mysteries. In 1980, a boy found decaying cash buried along a riverbank. The serial numbers matched bills from Cooper's ransom money. This proved Cooper had landed somewhere near that river, but it didn't reveal whether he survived the jump. The terrain he jumped into was dense forest and freezing water. Experts believe the parachute conditions made survival extremely unlikely. In 2016, the FBI officially closed the active investigation. D.B. Cooper's identity and fate remain completely unknown. He's the only unsolved hijacking case in American aviation history. Whether he died that night or escaped, no one will ever know. Ned Kelly was Australia's most legendary bushranger and outlaw. He led a gang that robbed banks across rural Victoria. In 1880, police cornered Kelly's gang at Glenrowan. Kelly had built crude homemade armor from plow metal. During the shootout, police fired hundreds of rounds at him. The armor protected his torso, but left his limbs exposed. Bullets shattered his legs, and he eventually collapsed. Police captured him alive, badly wounded, but conscious. He was taken to Melbourne to stand trial for murder. Kelly was found guilty and sentenced to death by hanging. On November 11, 1880, Ned Kelly was executed. His final words were reportedly, "Such is life." Thousands gathered outside the prison during his execution. His skull was later stolen, lost, and eventually recovered decades later. Ned Kelly became a symbol of rebellion in Australian folklore. His homemade armor is now displayed in a museum. Ronnie Biggs took part in Britain's Great Train Robbery in 1963. The gang stole over £2.6 million from a mail train. Biggs was caught and sentenced to 30 years in prison. In 1965, he escaped over a prison wall using a rope ladder. He fled to Australia, then later to Brazil. Brazil refused to extradite him due to legal technicalities. He lived openly in Rio de Janeiro for over 30 years. Biggs became a minor celebrity, selling t-shirts and meeting tourists. By 2001, his health had severely declined from multiple strokes. Unable to speak or eat normally, he voluntarily returned to Britain. He was immediately arrested upon landing at Heathrow Airport. Biggs spent years in prison, communicating only through a spelling board. In 2009, he was released on compassionate grounds due to illness. On December 18, 2013, Ronnie Biggs died at age 84. He passed away from pneumonia in a London care home. His decades on the run ended not in capture, but old age. Timothy McVeigh bombed a federal building in Oklahoma City in 1995. The attack killed 168 people, including 19 children. It remains the deadliest domestic terrorist attack in U.S. history. McVeigh was arrested within 90 minutes, missing a license plate. He was convicted on multiple counts of murder and conspiracy. McVeigh showed no remorse throughout his trial. He was sentenced to death by lethal injection. On June 11, 2001, McVeigh was executed in Terre Haute, Indiana. He chose not to make a final statement before dying. Instead, he submitted a written poem to be read posthumously. The execution was broadcast via closed-circuit television to victims' families. Many survivors watched the moment he was declared dead. McVeigh remained calm and showed no visible emotion. He was the first federal execution in nearly 40 years. His death brought a measure of closure to grieving families. The bombing's impact reshaped American domestic security policy permanently. Osama bin Laden orchestrated the September 11th attacks in 2001. He spent nearly a decade evading capture in Pakistan. U.S. intelligence tracked him to a compound in Abbottabad. On May 1, 2011, Navy SEALs launched a nighttime raid. Helicopters landed inside the compound walls under cover of darkness. SEAL Team 6 breached the building floor by floor. Bin Laden was found on the third floor of the compound. He reportedly reached for a weapon as SEALs entered. He was shot in the chest and head. Bin Laden died almost instantly from the gunshot wounds. His body was identified using facial recognition and DNA testing. Within 24 hours, he was buried at sea according to Islamic tradition. No photos of his body were ever released publicly. President Obama announced the death in a live address that night. Celebrations broke out across major American cities immediately. The decade-long manhunt for the world's most wanted man was over. Anders Behring Breivik committed Norway's deadliest attack in 2011. He killed 77 people in a bombing and mass shooting. Most victims were teenagers at a youth camp on Utoya Island. Breivik dressed as a police officer to gain access. He methodically hunted down victims for over an hour. Police response was delayed due to logistical failures. When officers finally arrived, Breivik surrendered without resistance. He raised his hands and walked toward police calmly. He showed no attempt to fight or flee capture. During his trial, Breivik expressed no remorse for the killings. He was sentenced to 21 years, Norway's maximum penalty. The sentence can be extended indefinitely if he's deemed dangerous. Breivik has remained in isolated prison conditions ever since. He's filed lawsuits claiming his prison conditions violate human rights. Unlike many criminals on this list, Breivik is still alive today. His case reshaped Norway's approach to domestic security forever. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe for similar ones. Feel free to drop suggestions for the next video in the comments.